Good morning and welcome to Elmhurst and Select Chicago. My name is Erin. I'm the Business Development Coordinator here in the city of Elmhurst, Illinois, and I'll be your moderator for this panel on regional and local flavor. So we want you to know what it is. Michael mentioned in his earlier talk about 300 kilometers from Metro Chicago is the Chicagoland region. What does that actually look like? And that's what our guests today on this panel are going to be talking about. First, I want to tell you a little bit about Elmhurst, where we're filming from today. Elmhurst is the eastern gateway to DuPage County. We're 16 miles direct west from Chicago, minutes from O'Hare, and at the crossroads of key Illinois expressways. This dynamic suburban city is home to over 44,000 residents and 2,500 plus businesses. We're the proud home of the corporate headquarters for many highly regarded enterprises, including but certainly not limited to Greenleaf Foods, Superior Ambulance, Semblex Corporation, McMaster-Carr, and many others. Elmhurst is a historic, tree-lined community with a wide variety of housing, offering those who live, work, and do business here a vibrant mix of the past and the future. Elmhurst enjoys a thriving retail shopping center, districts, urban boutiques, excellent restaurants, a 10-screen movie theater, multiple automobile dealerships, and 3 distinct business parks. You'll find that each of the communities within the Chicagoland region also has great things to offer, just as Elmhurst does. From our agricultural partners farther west, to the booming industry and the largest industrial park in the United States of Elk Grove Village, which we'll be talking about soon, the Chicagoland region welcomes the world to do business here. First up, I want to introduce Clarence Hulse of Michigan City, Indiana. Michigan City is 50 miles from Metro Chicago, tucked on the southern tip of Lake Michigan, and home of the Indiana Dunes National Park. Michigan City continues to forge forward in creating jobs, capital investments, all while enhancing its small-town appeal through quality of life projects. Michigan City is a northwestern Indiana community with a great quality of life in place, where commerce and industry can prosper and grow. Michigan City merges the right mix of resources, city government officials, utility engineers, and the expertise of business leaders. Their exclusive incentive packages and unique natural resources make Michigan City the place to build or expand. Clarence, welcome.
Good morning. Thank you, Erin. I'm going to have to hire you as my PR marketing agent. That was excellent. Thank you again, Clarence Hulse, Michigan City, Indiana. I am very excited to be here, Select Chicago Conference. People ask me all the time, why are you Michigan City, Indiana, part of Select Chicago? I tell them it's probably one of the best things we're doing with our marketing dollars. We sit in the southeast part of Chicago Metro, and this is a great place to be to do business. We are interconnected, roads, interstates, ports, airports, world-class universities that offers research and practical entrepreneurship hubs across the region, diverse neighborhoods, both racial and international diversity. This is a great place not only to do business, but also to live and raise your family. In terms of tourism, you can find everything in this region. As Erin just said, within 30 minutes of Chicago Central, you can drive and see rural areas with farmlands and corn and soybeans. And so the region is very, very, very diverse in terms of what it offers: advanced manufacturing, agriculture, research, technology. It's all here. So Chicago land is centrally located within the United States, and so we consider us the hub of activity from not only commercial but also place where people want to be and attract the rest of the world. So for a small city like Michigan City, being part of a network like this is awesome, and it allows us to connect with not only Chicago but the rest of the world. We see a lot of activity from people who come to Chicago because Chicago has great tourism assets. And so once you land in Chicago, you're tempted to move further west, north, south, east, or west. I mean, and there's great museums, microbreweries, water sports, beach communities, waterfront communities, shopping centers. It's all here. And so I would ask any investor, international or otherwise, to really look at Chicagoland, contact Select Chicago, and look at how your business can thrive in this region, because we are all here to help you figure out the small crossing your T's and dotting your I's. But this area is growing. As Erin mentioned, Michigan City is growing. We have a train station and additional tracks into Chicago. So in the future, will be an hour by train. So that's a big deal for us. And so we are excited to be part of a larger metro. We are excited to work with a larger group of people who are professionals in what they do and experts in their fields. And so for me, they're a great resource. I can tap into a lot of knowledge across the region, and we can share knowledge, work together on projects, talk to various international consulates within Chicagoland, and really allow them to learn what this great region has to offer. So excited to be here, and I'll be here on to answer any questions for you in regard to Chicagoland or Michigan City. Thank you.
Thank you, Clarence. I know many of the people on the call today and who are viewing this post-production will have been lucky enough to have visited Michigan City on a community tour earlier this year. I heard they had a great time before the tour stopped. And we here in Elmhurst were scheduled for April, and we hope to reschedule in 2021 when the Select Chicago community tours come back online. So thank you, Clarence. Next, we're going to talk to Josh Grodzin of Elk Grove Village. Elk Grove is about 22 miles to Metro Chicago. It's home, as I mentioned, to the largest industrial park in the United States and offers a diverse mix of over 3,800 local, national, and international companies while maintaining the charm of a small town. Elk Grove features deep supply chains, a skilled workforce, and is accessible by all modes of transportation. Elk Grove is a premier global business destination. A small-town atmosphere with excellent parks and recreation, schools, and access to transportation are only a few of the reasons why people choose to call Elk Grove home. Josh, thank you for being with us here today.
Well, thank you for having me, Erin. It's great to be here with my colleagues on Select Chicago panel. Thank you for hosting in beautiful downtown Elmhurst. It's a beautiful day here. And thank you for the introduction. Yeah, Elk Grove Village is a unique community. It's just west of O'Hare International Airport. It's about 33,000 residents, but really what's unique about Elk Grove Village, and Erin mentioned, is we have a very large industrial park. It's actually the largest industrial park in the United States. It has 62 million square feet of industrial space, and it's a very diverse industrial park. We have companies in metal manufacturing, plastic, rubber manufacturing, food manufacturing, warehousing, logistics. We have a number of data centers in Elk Grove Village, a lot of building material companies. So it's very diverse, and as Erin mentioned, we're served by all the major interstates in the Chicagoland area. And we also have a very unique feature. We have a freight rail system that runs throughout the industrial park. So if people are shipping by rail, they're easily accessible to really the entire country and parts of Canada from Elk Grove Village. So it's pretty amazing, a network of transportation. And we have such great companies. We have Microsoft data centers in Elk Grove Village. We have a Tesla warehouse in Elk Grove Village. We actually have two companies that manufacture pinball machines. Believe it or not, pinball machines are still made in this country, and we have two companies that manufacture them, Stern Pinball and Jersey Jack Pinball. So I'm excited to be here and answer questions about Elk Grove Village and work with my colleagues on promoting foreign direct investment. And I'll throw it back to you, Erin. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Josh. One of the Elk Grove Village companies that my family took advantage during the shutdown was Campfire Marshmallows.
Oh, yeah.
Lots of Rice Krispie treats made in the Jason household during the COVID shutdowns, and thank you, Elk Grove, for producing those marshmallows for us. So next up, we're going to talk to Leslie Murphy in Skokie, Illinois. Skokie is 16 miles from Metro Chicago, directly north. It's a thriving center of commerce with vibrant retail centers, commercial districts, a strong and diverse industrial base, and an extensive professional services. A superior and connected location, Skokie is less than 20 minutes from O'Hare and close to downtown Chicago, Lake County bioscience firms, and the Milwaukee metro area via major highways and public transit. Skokie offers easy access to customers, suppliers, and labor markets. Over 2,400 small, medium-sized, and large businesses in Skokie are supported by almost 65,000 local residents and a daytime workforce population of over 75,000. As Leslie's pin states, Skokie welcomes everyone. And today, Leslie, we welcome you to tell us more about Skokie.
Thanks, Erin. You basically, one of the main things I love about Select Chicago is that we are all cheerleaders for each other, and we've all learned so much about each other's communities that it basically represents Chicagoland in terms of what's best about it, and that's the people. We have so many wonderful, diverse communities that offer a pro-business attitude, but they're also very concerned about the people that live within these communities. We are less competitive than we used to be because the borders are so random. We know that many of the communities that represent Chicagoland border each other, and many times a business will be looking at an area or a region and will be just as supportive if they choose to open in Plains versus Skokie versus Lake Zurich versus Michigan City, because we know that what's good for our communities is good for the region, and what's good for the region is good for our communities. So Skokie in particular, we believe, offers the best of many worlds within its boundaries. And we have a very pro-business mayor and village board, very competitive commercial land prices and residential price points. But we're also known for the more than 90 languages that are often spoken by students in our schools, making Skokie and its counterparts one of the most diverse communities in Illinois. Our residents are served by a broad array of municipal services. Fire, public works, and police are all accredited. And we have, like Elk Grove, Michigan City, and several of the other communities that we are going to be talking about today. Large employers based within our boundaries. Not all the big companies are in Chicago. They're in the suburbs as well. Most notably for us, we have the Illinois Science and Technology Park, where I'll discuss in a little more detail later. But we also have many cultural and natural resources appreciated by our residents. We draw many outside visitors, as Michigan City and Elk Grove also mentioned. You have a large daytime population, but we also have large tourist populations. We have a very energetic mix of people in this area who value community, embrace the Midwestern values, and who spend time working to make the region more accessible and livable. It's a known fact that investors and developers want to build in places that people want to be in, and Chicagoland is clearly a place that people want to be. I think we all can agree to that. And there's a very strong residential and great schools, quality municipal services. Many of the communities in the Chicagoland area are also consistently ranked high on national best places to live, learn, and buy a home. So we're very proud of those rankings as well. We'll talk a little bit more later about some of the specifics, but I'm so happy to be here. I'm actually working from home today because we've got some construction going outside of Village Hall, and that's also encouraging in our downtown.
Thank you, Leslie. As we continue the next part of this panel, we are going to be doing a Q&A. So I encourage anyone who's on with us this morning to please submit questions through the chat box, and Cassandra will relay those up to me. We do have a few to start us off. First, the Chicagoland region boasts a highly skilled, stable workforce, superior road, rail, water, and air transportation assets, and is second to none with market access. Quality of life is equally important in the decision-making process for companies looking to locate in the United States. Here in Elmhurst, we have a great art museum, we have a choral union, we have a symphony, we have a fantastic downtown, walkable community, and I know that we're not alone in that within our region. We have great quality of life pieces that make our community stand out. And Leslie, I'm going to ask you to start with this. Can you tell us, you mentioned Skokie boasts many fine cultural and recreational attractions. Can you dig a little bit deeper in that and let us know about the quality of life in Skokie?
Absolutely. We celebrate all of the communities that represent different parts of the world in Skokie. We have a renowned uh, Center for the Performing Arts that regularly draws in acts and performances from all over the world. And that's situated in our Old Orchard commercial market area, which actually is across the street from the future open air mall. And the open air mall is actually very critical right now for us because many people are still worried about going indoors. And so we have a lot of activity going on in the mall. The performance has been moved to the parking lot as well, but that's one thing about Skokie. We're always able to pivot in the midst of a pandemic, as well as the other concerns that are out there. We annually have a festival of cultures, which basically represents many countries, and we celebrate that over a 3-day period in April. We have over 20 companies that are foreign-based, and they regularly bring in groups from overseas to inhabit our hotel, as well as to enjoy some of the restaurants that are situated near the downtown and up in the Old Orchard area. We have ongoing tours, like some of my counterparts have mentioned, where we bring in different groups of either organizations that represent companies or consulate offices that are interested in seeing what's going on within our technology park, as well as the growth that's occurred in and around the tech park. We also have a highly valued and highly sought after community college. Community college has an extension which basically enrolls over 3,000 students, many from different ethnicities that are studying for either associate degrees and other curriculum. So that's a little bit of the flavor. We're very strong on the celebrating the ethnicities as well as the cultural arts, but we're also very, very much wanting to educate as many people as possible within our countries.
Thank you, Leslie. Clarence, would you like to talk about quality of life in Michigan City? I mean, the lighthouse alone is worth a trip and everything else that comes with it.
Definitely, yeah. As most of you are aware, quality of life is one of the main talent attraction strategies today by many of our commuters. So we sit on the southern tip of Lake Michigan, so we are a beach community. We are close to the newest national park, the dunes, and also we have some man-made attractions. Of course, the casino and the outlet mall that most people come and shop all the time. We have a very thriving arts district, which we've got our own art space, which we have 45 artists living in a multifamily facility in the middle of downtown, which attracts a lot of art events throughout the year. And we were able to attract over 30 independent restaurants the past 5 years of various ethnic groups, Mediterranean, Polish, Italian, etc., Japanese. And so we love our small town atmosphere. We're also home to the International Friendship Gardens, where you can see plants from all over the world here in Michigan City. And so, as much as we grow, we want to maintain our small town hometown feel, and we're excited to see all the welcome residents, visitors from all over the world. We're home to 12 international companies from all over the world: Swedish, German, Japanese, British, Canadian, etc. So, we do have an international component in our small town. So, and we're always welcome more.
Thank you, Clarence. And last but not least, Josh, we talk about Elk Grove as this strong industrial park region, but I know that there's such a strong community spirit and so much more than that. Can you speak to the quality of life in Elk Grove?
Yes, absolutely. Thanks, Erin. Elk Grove, as I mentioned, is home to about 33,000 residents, and they really do enjoy a very high quality of life. Elk Grove is a very affordable community. In fact, we have the lowest property tax rate of any community in the Chicagoland region. So we keep costs low for our residents. And those residents enjoy a very robust educational system with Elk Grove High School and Conan High School, both award-winning high schools. And we also have a very well-renowned park district. There's plenty of park district facilities, water parks for families to take advantage of. We're also we're on the east side of the community, as I mentioned. We're close to O'Hare Airport, but on the west side, we're actually border Busse Woods, which is one of the largest forest preserves in Cook County's jurisdiction. So there's lakes and bike trails, and you can go jogging or walking, and really you can get lost in Busse Woods and not even realize you're in a Chicago urban suburban setting, because it's all natural. So it really is a great quality of life, and we do have well over 150 to 200 foreign companies, which speaks to the diversity of not only Elk Grove Village but the region itself. So there's a great amount of diversity. And although Elk Grove doesn't have a traditional downtown like you have a beautiful downtown here in Elmhurst, we do have close to 100 restaurants. So you can get anything from pierogies to Cuban food, Japanese food, Italian food. It's really, the diversity is borne out in the residents and the amenities that they can avail themselves of.
Thank you. I have had pierogies in Elk Grove. He's not kidding. They're delicious. So next up, our region is home to amazing educational resources, terrific public schools on the lower levels, and as you go higher, colleges and universities, vocational schools, tech schools, as well as community college. Leslie mentioned that. Here in Elmhurst, the students and the residents here have access to College of DuPage, as well as Elmhurst University, which is right in the heart of our downtown. In Michigan City, you're the site of Indiana's first construction trade apprenticeship program and energy academy. How have you seen, Clarence, I'm going to start with you. How have you seen educational resources like these come into play in your community? Is there an opportunity for businesses who are looking to relocate to the U.S. to create educational and job-specific training programs with your community resources and education?
Most definitely. All our educational institutions love to partner with business and industry in creating these special type of partnerships for job training, and I call them jobs of the future. We have been able to create, as you mentioned, an energy academy, working with utility companies. We're able to create a construction apprenticeship program with the local unions, and also we have probably the only compressed air academy in the United States where we train young high school students to learn how to work within the air compressor industry. And so you leave high school with 5 certifications, and you can enter right into the field. We have over 12 companies within that sector, and they all partnered with the high school to offer their training manual, to train the teachers. They offered equipment, all the air compressor pumps and tools to the schools, and they are part of a committee to ensure that quality is maintained. So any companies that are looking to expand within the city or any part of Chicagoland, I know we all welcome these special partnerships. They ensure that there's a talent pipeline, a workforce pipeline for your company, and they ensure a high quality that will know how to work within your respective companies. So yes, we always look for these special partnerships because they do work.
Great, thank you, Clarence. Josh, do you have any particular programs and whatnot happening in Elk Grove that you want to share?
Absolutely, that's a great question. And as I have routinely go around the community and visit with businesses, workforce development is the biggest issue they bring up. And Elk Grove Village and Elk Grove High School actually have a very robust partnership because the high school has a manufacturing lab, they call it a fabrication lab, in the school where they teach kids how to use welding equipment, CNC equipment, teach them what it's like to work in a manufacturing facility. And the village last October, we gave the high school a $100,000 grant to help them build out that fabrication lab. And it's not just giving them money, but I also work with the business community in the high school on matching them up with each other, because the high school, they don't have relationships with the business community as well as I do. But then again, I don't, have relationships with students like the high school does. So it's the perfect fit where we, help companies in high school connect for internships, not really apprenticeships because they're just learning. It's more internships. But on the apprenticeship side, we do work with Harper Community College because they have a manufacturing program as well. And we also work with the state of Illinois on their workforce training programs and promote that to the business community. So in my role, I really try and broker that information as much as possible. So when I hear a business, I get calls from businesses all the time. Yeah, I'm looking to fill this position. I'm looking to, start an apprenticeship program. So I kind of put them in touch with the high school, with Harper Community College, and help them build up their workforce.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think Josh's answer kind of speaks to what we're saying across the board throughout this panel, and I think you'll see as you visit the exhibit halls and the Select Chicago website or portal, and as you chat with us live or beyond this conference, our jobs as the communities that are represented in Select Chicago is a hyper focus on being business friendly and helping your business transition to the U.S. and into our communities and into the region. And I don't want to skip you, Leslie, on this question. Did you have anything you wanted to add regarding education as it pertains to Skokie?
Absolutely. And I really love sitting on panels and being part of the Select Chicago organization because I am so inspired by what is going on in all of the communities representing Chicagoland. And I get encouraged all the time by the work that's being done by my counterparts so that anyone that comes to the Chicago area, I'm comfortable that any town we land in, they're going to be well cared for. And they're going to be able to pivot and know that the community is behind them. One thing I did want to share that we were able to do on behalf of a couple of international firms from New Zealand as well as Better or Germany, they had indicated a desire to have more nanotechnicians within the area. And they were very happy with the level of academic and experience that were being brought in by their potential employees. But one thing they needed was a way to train nanotechnicians. And so we were able to respond to the company's needs, put together a program that brought into the fold Oakton Community College and the Chicago Community Trust as a funder, and the local high school. And we basically set up a nanotechnology lab where hundreds of students were being trained to be nanotechnicians for the local market. And this went on for about 5 years. Until some of the funding ran out. But we know there's a lot of nanotechnicians out there that have been trained properly and hired by companies as a result of the work that we've done. So we were very proud of that effort. We're ready to do more things like that, just like my counterparts are here today.
Great, thank you, Leslie. Moving on to our next question. Growth is still happening. I think there's this misunderstanding that everything is shut down in the United States right now and in the world with the pandemic and so on and so forth. Here in Elmhurst, we have buildings. We have a huge crane just a block away from here, putting another level on a new apartment building in our downtown area. We just went to council with several new industrial buildings with modern industrial, which is something Elmhurst has been lacking over the years. So now we're getting some new properties online, which you'll see in our deal book, which they'll talk about at the next conference. What do you see or what do you anticipate seeing in the next decade or so in terms of new development with the potential for FDI and other opportunities in your community? Josh, I'm gonna kick this one to you first. So where do you see Elk Grove as the years continue on now?
Well, that's a great question. And 10 years from now, that's a long time. I wish I had a crystal ball, but I can tell you, there were a lot of projects that were started in the first quarter of this year that you would think would have been shut down, due to the pandemic, which we're all going through right now. But really, I've never been busier. It's really amazing. I mean, we have last summer, there was a groundbreaking for the Elk Grove Technology Park, which is an 85-acre, technology industrial park. And, fast forward to today, they're practically, out of space. They're about 85, 90% full. And just recently, Microsoft announced they were going to build 3 data centers on that piece of property, and they're already in for building permits. Even through this pandemic, our village has been open and taking, not taking, but, giving out building permits and processing permits. So we haven't shut down at all, really. We just changed the way we worked. We just went more remote, which has actually worked out quite well. And since then, the tech park, other than Microsoft, they have several tenants. One of them is a German manufacturing company, Brochi Automation, that works in the aerospace world. And that is a great example of foreign investments. I think it's the first manufacturing facility outside Germany for this company. And they were attracted to the Chicago region because of all the great amenities we have. And they specifically said they wanted to be in an area that was diverse, that their workforce could have a good quality of life and can have the amenities of being in the Chicago region. They also have a Japanese company in there that works in the printing industry and a data center, T5 data centers. We've had a number of tear down rebuilds of these older industrial buildings from the 60s and 70s that are well-built buildings. They're just little, functionally obsolete, and they're being torn down for these larger precast 32-foot ceiling industrial, buildings that could be for logistics, it could be for manufacturing. So we've had a lot of that activity. Home Depot is going to occupy about 100,000 square foot distribution facility. That's at the high end, but we also have smaller companies, manufacturing companies, believe it or not, that are expanding into 20 and 30,000 square foot spaces. My colleague Nick Radcliffe and I, just last week, we were out practically every day talking to businesses, outside, socially distant, talking to them about moving or expanding in the village. So there's been a lot of activity. It hasn't really slowed down at all. Our vacancy rate for industrial property at the end of the second quarter was 4% vacancy, which anything under 5 is phenomenal. And the O'Hare market is really, the O'Hare industrial market is really doing quite well. 10 years from now, Elk Grove is embarking right now on a project to put together like a 5G network for the village. So businesses can tap into that as another tool in our toolbox, economic development tool, that they can tap into a 5G network. So hopefully in 10 years that is up and running and that is robust, and Elk Grove will be known not only as the largest industrial park, but the fastest and the smartest industrial park. So when I'm seeing 10 years out, that's hopefully I'll be on a panel in 10 years saying we're the fastest and smartest industrial park, not only the largest.
Thanks, Josh. Leslie, do you want to answer that one for us?
Happy to. Echoing everything that Josh said, and I'm sure I know what Clarence is going to be saying, is that COVID has not stopped a lot of the construction projects that we knew were in the hopper, and even got started as early as the first quarter of this year. What we're really excited about for Chicagoland and for Skokie, because we view anything that's good for Skokie is good for the area, is the heightened demand for wet lab space and research and technology within the bioscience and life science areas. And we know the city of Chicago has currently under construction and completing several locations for that. But we firmly believe that the suburbs are ripe for more foreign direct investment with respect to bioscience. And in our Illinois Science and Technology Park, that is actually what we've been doing for the last several years. We are in a position right now with the owners of the park to develop a 160,000 square foot building for more wet lab space and bring more of those types of workers into our downtown and into the area for the region. We're also very excited about the possibility, and it's getting closer to that, of adding a hotel and conference center within the downtown park, and that will support any more employees that are coming into the area. We have a CTA station that we actually built and turned over to the Chicago Transit Authority several years ago. That obviously there have been, some concerns about public transportation at this point, but we believe in the next 3 to 4 years that those types of employees will be coming back. We're also the beneficiary, like Josh had mentioned, of a couple of logistic expansions, and we have 2 more warehouse and manufacturing facilities scheduled in the area. The other big thing, though, that we're excited about is our hospital system has pivoted to more of a center of excellence, and so they've been spending a lot of resources on creating a renowned spine and orthopedic center within our boundaries. But again, it's serving the area, and many more people are coming to the area as a result of it. So we're excited in different sectors. We know it's going to be a while before people feel comfortable using public transportation again, but we know that there's very easy access to most of these communities by automobiles. Happy about that.
Thanks, Leslie. Clarence, did you want to answer that one for us too?
Sure. I'm just excited listening to everybody else's projects. Exciting time for the region. Here in West Indiana, we've seen our pipeline has been pretty active. I know in Michigan City, we've seen a lot of large industrial projects still moving forward. You know, we were able to attract a German company, Marbach, here in Michigan City, and they've been doing very well. Hitachi just expanded here in Michigan City, again, doing very well with hiring the talent and getting the what they need to do their business. We also just opened up a brand new hospital, $240 million. So we're seeing a lot of activity within the healthcare sector. And of course, downtown, because of the whole double track expansion, we're seeing a lot of multifamily projects, condos, and apartments within our downtown. So lots of room for foreign investors to invest in our community, both from the residential side, multifamily, mixed use, but also industrial projects. And, you know, we see them being part of a very robust region that's doing very, very well. And I think being connected to Chicago does bode well because you're connected to all the airports, the ports, and having all the interstates. We just also are working on a brand new business park, 250 acres, right near Interstate 94. So we're hoping that we'll be able to attract and be able to hold new companies as they move to this area.
Wow, that's wonderful to be able to have the space to build that out, Clarence. Congratulations. That sounds like a great project. I can't wait to see where that's at in 10 years. Okay, I'm going to go next to a question we had on the, I was going to say on the phone, like we're on a phone bank here, but through the portal. We've got a couple questions. One, someone's asking, how far is everyone from downtown? So I'm going to recap that real quick. Elmhurst, we're about 16 miles out. Skokie, we're direct west. Skokie is about 16 north. Does that sound fair, Leslie? Clarence in Michigan City is about 50 miles southeast, so just around the lake, and Elk Grove is northwest of the city, about 22 miles. But the biggest question we're getting from a couple different participants is they want to know about safety. I think Chicago is portrayed in the media as somewhere right now that you don't want to be, that it's dangerous, that it's not safe, etc. That is not really the experience of more than a very small sector of the Chicagoland area, and very small. And we're talking about 300 kilometers here around the Chicago metro. And I don't want to speak for everyone on the panel, so I will ask around. But Clarence, we'll start with you in Michigan City. Is there something you want to speak about the actual safety or crime rates or things like that in Michigan City?
I think in any metro area, there are areas where there's crime. And I think I've traveled across the world. And so I think one has to be careful when they travel and know where they should be aware of their surroundings. So, you know, Chicago has gotten a bad rap over the years in terms of crime. And it's, you know, unfortunately, is what makes the news. I will tell people I travel to Chicago all the time and parts of Chicagoland, and I never feel unsafe because I know that there's great law enforcement in all those communities. In my community, we see a lot of collaboration with the interstate. We see a lot of collaboration with the various law enforcement departments across the region. So crime does happen, but I think there's a lot of law enforcement within the region that are working together to make it safer, and not only at the local level, but state level and the federal level. So I think one just has to be careful. And so having traveled across the world, Europe and Central and South America, across the United States. I think being aware of infrastructure is always key. And I think, these things also go in cycles. And I think the economy is probably one factor right now. And of which election politics also plays into that. But I would say Chicago is safe as anywhere else in the world.
Thank you, Clarence. Leslie, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, the pandemic actually enabled our community and many others to pull together and put together a task force and develop an economic recovery report for Skokie and for our counterparts. And one of the opportunities that we gained through that was to actually query businesses and individuals about how to get beyond the pandemic. And during that time, of course, there were concerns about safety going on in Chicago and elsewhere. The subject of safety never came up while we were interviewing most of the businesses and the individuals that were responsible for growth in our area. I think unfortunately the press and the news tends to show only the side that will actually get eyeballs. But people that are living, working, growing, investing in here, they're not talking about the safety issues, because we know that it's usually in isolated areas. And yes, we sympathize with a lot of the businesses that have experienced looting. That's more on the retail side in some of the locations in Chicago. I haven't heard of anything in the suburbs or anything in Chicagoland that even is remotely close to what was occurring from an isolated standpoint in Chicago. It's just not a subject that we're spending a lot of time worrying about.
You bring up a good point, Leslie. There were lots of protests throughout the suburbs and farther out within the Chicagoland region. And here in Elmhurst, we had 3 organized protests with no damage done, no issues, no police action needed. These are communities that work together to make things get done. And really, as Josh will tell you about Elk Grove, I'm going to point to Josh just to let him answer this also. There's a reason why you've gotten awards actually in Elk Grove Village, right, Josh, for community safety in partnership with the police department and with the community leaders. So I'll let you speak to that as we round this question up.
Yes, absolutely. As you guys all stated, I mean, you pretty much covered it. I mean, I can tell you Elk Grove, you think about crime and safety issues. Elk Grove, like probably all of our communities, have highly accredited police and fire departments. Elk Grove's police department is internationally accredited, which means they have to meet a very, very strenuous, benchmarking system. And our fire department is nationally accredited as well, as I'm sure most of the communities are. They're very professional and very, well respected. The level of business investment in this region, the level of foreign investment, the level of domestic investment. I mean, we have. I'm not sure the exact number, but I'm sure it's on the Select Chicago website. We have a number of Fortune 1000 companies in Illinois and the Chicago region. There wouldn't be that level of investment, on the business side and the residential side if this was not a safe place to live and work. I mean, I'm born and raised in this area, and it's a great environment to have a family. The school systems, the educational systems, the amenities of living near a major metropolitan city like Chicago. The pluses far outweigh the negatives. And every city, as Clarence said, there's crime everywhere in the world, but in this area that is far outweighed by the good and the positive of. And you talk about strengths of this region. We always talk about infrastructure and the workforce and the supply chain. But I think the greatest strength is the people. I mean, I go around and visit a lot of companies, and the individuals that run these companies and work at these companies are some of the brightest, most creative people I've ever met in my life. I'm blown away by the people that live and work in this region, that manufacture, invent, and create probably every product or a piece in every product all of us use and don't even realize it. So you got to dig a little bit below the surface and really get to know the businesses and the people that live and work around here, because this Chicago metropolitan area and our communities are are probably some of the top, communities in the country as far as professionally run and professionally managed.
Thank you. I hope that addresses the concerns and that matter. And again, we're all available to chat with directly through the portal, and in coming weeks, months, as we continue through the Select Chicago Conference and beyond. That's what the steering committee is here for, to talk to you about those issues. And we invite you to our communities to come and see for yourself. I know many of you have already toured Skokie, Michigan City, I mentioned earlier. Elk Grove, I think, was the last community tour we got in person before the pandemic shutdowns. And that actually leads us into our next question. Someone on the portal has asked, what are your immediate plans as restrictions ease? What does Q1 look like for 2021? And now I will point out, though we are one region, we are still in some different states. So Clarence is in Indiana. His restrictions a little bit different than those that Leslie and Josh and I have been working under. And I think, Josh, I'm going to let you kick this one off. You mentioned, I think we're all feeling the same way when the steering committee gets together via Zoom these days. All of us are really busy right now. So what does Q1 look like for you as restrictions lift?
Well, that's a great question. As I mentioned earlier, we're busier than ever now. So even under the restrictions, because so many companies in Elk Grove Village are of an industrial manufacturing nature, they never closed. Sure, a lot of our restaurants closed for a time being, although they're open now with outdoor seating and limited indoor seating. So that's getting back up on their feet. But really, the industrial sector, of which is the bread and butter of Elk Grove Village, did not shut down. Even with the restrictions, they're all essential businesses, logistics companies, manufacturing companies, food manufacturing companies. And as I mentioned, the village never shut down. I mean, we worked remotely from home, but we were busier than ever. We are still issuing permits. We're still doing plan review. We're still having village board meetings. We're still having, our plan commission meetings. We're not closed. So as restrictions ease, and I hope they do, it's going to be a pretty easy transition because we never stopped working. I'm available for any business to call me anytime during the day, during the weekends. It doesn't matter to me. We're available, and I think we'll have the industrial sector is very, very strong, and there's a lot of building that's going on right now, and I don't see that abating in any way. Unlike a lot of other communities, my colleagues here, like I said, we don't have a traditional downtown, so I can't speak to retail as much or entertainment. But on the industrial side, I think it's going to be strong through the year and into next year. Especially, we've seen a large growth in data center development. As e-commerce has taken off over the last several years, now that people are home and working from home, all the Zoom and GoToMeeting infrastructure goes through these data centers. Illinois recently passed a sales tax exemption for data centers. So when they do the build out of all their equipment, it's sales tax exempt. That really opened the floodgates. That's what allowed Microsoft to move to Elk Grove Village. So I think there's a lot of good things in the future, definitely.
Clarence, are you thinking the same for Indiana?
I wish I had a crystal ball.
So, say that everything be okay. But, as we get off these social and medical protocols, hopefully, like he mentioned, the industrial sector has kept chugging along. I think there'll probably be a few hiccups when it comes to probably some distribution. And for those that products are not being sold, I think you'll probably see some of those slow down. The food sector is booming and will continue to boom. I think anything that's considered necessary will continue to be manufactured. The luxuries and the things they don't have to use probably for a while are not going to be slowing down. But our industrial pipeline has been very active. We've had probably 4 site visits the past 2 months with both site selectors and new business looking in the area, and we have to do business differently, Zoom, but also using different cars, and it's very different to do business. So I think that will continue. I think the stock market is doing well. cost of funds are really cheap right now. So I think a lot of large companies are looking to lock in those rates and to invest in both building and equipment right now. So I think it's a great time for us as in Chicagoland to plan the way forward, working both with local business, but also working to attract foreign investors because those are a great time to actually invest in the United States.
We in Elmhurst have seen, I know Josh mentioned the retail part of it is not as prevalent in Elk Grove as it is in some communities like Skokie and Elmhurst. We have seen new restaurants open during this time, new boutiques open during this time, and high demand for those spaces. Leslie, I know that you've had some big ribbon cuttings and new openings for these last few months. If you want to speak just to that and what's in the future for Q1 for Skokie.
So sure, I would probably want to take a little bit more of a sobering approach to Q1 only because I do feel that the next 6 months are going to be very telling for a lot of the businesses, and we're talking mostly retail and restaurant here, unlike what Clarence and Josh referred to on the manufacturing and the distribution and the research side. I don't see anything letting up at this point, but we are concerned about the local retail and restaurant market that this is going to be a recovery time, if you will. We're spending a lot of time taking care of our local businesses, and that's one of the things I wanted to express here today is that this is such a just an uncertain time, and obviously, hopefully, nothing that we'll ever experience again. But across the borders and within our borders, we are all very, very focused on our local organizations, our local businesses, and what they're going through, and the support that I'm seeing across many communities is profound. So one of the things I wanted to express is that if you are a business that's thinking about coming here, you will be well cared for by the communities that you invest in, because we do understand your needs. We're getting better at it, as we join groups like this. But we really, really don't want to lose anyone. But those that are suffering, we're trying to, through grant programs and local business support and obviously promotion during this time. And that gets me to the good side of the coin here. We have been fortunate amongst many communities to have some recent investment, including experiential retail, because that's where things are going. Obviously, the physical buying, it's shifting more to online, but people are also still looking for that experience. So we're seeing an uptick in breweries. We're seeing obviously investment from the recreational and medicinal cannabis dispensary market. I'm surprised to see that several of the dispensaries that are located in various towns, these are beautiful, great locations, prominent, and that's very gratifying. We're also very much wanting to see businesses that are that perhaps have been overextending themselves. They're consolidating, making themselves more efficient. They're learning how to do delivery and catering or carry out better than they've ever done before. So you're seeing a lot of improvement in the business models that obviously if it weren't for the pandemic and other things associated with it, probably wouldn't be occurring. So, we're trying to take the positives, I call them pandemic pluses, from this industry and just trying to make sure that we're supporting the businesses as much as we can as they get through this. So, that's one gratifying part of this whole experience.
Thank you, Leslie. Of course, you have pandemic positives, very positive cheerleader for economic development for the whole Chicagoland region. You'll never not see Leslie smiling. So we have one more question for this group. This is a group, the Select Chicago Steering Committee, the four of us, as well as our comrades who are joining us who are, again, you can see them in the exhibit portal and throughout the conference for the next few weeks. We really value the effective collaboration and responsiveness from state, regional, local economic developers. We really value that as part of the Select Chicago experience. What experiences have you in particular gained and learned from your affiliation with Select Chicago when seeking to attract more FDI, or whether you want to just serve the needs of foreign-based companies already in your communities? Clarence, did you want to start us with that?
Of course, I think for me is being part of a network that has experts in different fields. I think my colleagues are good at what they do, and they have some of them are very good at in very specific areas. So being able to ask those questions, I think Select Chicago also offers a platform for any foreign investor who needs to be handheld through the process. They can work with they say the director, but if they decide what part of the region they want to be in, there are people who are professionals in their field who can guide them through the permitting processes, licensing processes, abatement, incentive processes. And so having that, I think, for an investor, I think is key because it makes you very comfortable in moving forward. But also for us, it's also being exposed to all the other assets Chicagoland has to offer for a small community, because we tap into those assets in terms of having people who can finance projects, bankers, investors, working with contractors, developers from across Chicagoland. And so having being in that network allows us to bring your project home a lot faster. If there's a developer in Skokie or Elmhurst or investor who can help a foreign investor anywhere in the region. I mean, having those be able to call and find those people and work with us to bring in more investments to our community, I think is key. So I think we're part of a great network, and I think that network will help bring in more foreign investment to this region.
Wonderful, Clarence. I couldn't agree with you more. Leslie, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Sure. We in Skokie have experienced, like many of us, going to international conferences, going out there to promote the community that we represent. What I love about Select Chicago is that we have not only done that, but we're doing it better now because of our affiliation with the local communities that we've joined up with. And I feel like we've built and strengthened relationships across the borders, and that we work through problems, especially during the pandemic. We're sharing opportunities together. We're better than we used to be in terms of being able to respond to the growing interest that Michael Edgar, as our president, and several of the board members have been actively promoting and gathering. I mean, we've got a pipeline that sometimes we can't even keep up with in terms of the number of businesses that are interested in landing here or learning more about the area. So, and I also feel like I'm better at educating our local elected officials, because they're the ones that are really directing our strategies. And as long as they know and they see the number of investors that are coming through our pipeline and perhaps visiting our communities, that gives them the confidence that we can compete, not so much with each other, but we can compete against the East and the West Coast, and that there's more of a reason to invest in this area. So I have been nothing but satisfied and even growing in my satisfaction with our affiliation. And I appreciate any communities that want to come into our organizational fold, because we're better and we're stronger together than we ever have been.
And Josh, any final thoughts on the positivities of being a part of Select Chicago?
Yeah, absolutely. I think my colleagues on the panel would agree that you don't get into the business of economic development unless you're passionate about, building community and helping companies grow and create jobs. And although there's a lot of, friendly competition, we definitely get a lot more out of collaboration. And I know I learned from, people I meet on the committee, and I'm sure hopefully they learned from me a little bit. But really, it's a unique model. As we're out there promoting our individual communities on an international level, for Elk Grove to do it by ourselves, or Skokie or Elmhurst to go to that large audience individually is really difficult. But with the FDI model, with the work that Michael Edgar has done in Select Chicago, what he's created is that collaboration, and he can take all the inquiries and create that pipeline that Leslie spoke about and filter it down to each community. So that model of one point of contact at the highest level with Michael and Select Chicago, and filtering that down to the communities to act upon, just enables us to do a lot more with less budgets. And it's a big tool in each of our, I like to call it our economic development toolbox. It's an important tool because we're working together rather than going it alone, which is always more difficult.
To your point, economic development is all about relationships, and Select Chicago just brings a whole new batch of relationships into all of our lives and into all of our toolkits. So I want to thank again all of our panelists for joining us, and I want to remind all of you, our global audience, that the Chicagoland region offers everything companies need to thrive, including global connectivity, an experienced workforce, business incentive programs, competitive labor environments, energy availability, logistics and infrastructure, and of course, available real estate. Thank you so much for tuning into this session, for learning more about the local flavor of the Chicagoland region. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and please consider joining us.